Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're really unpacking a classic, a cornerstone of personal development. Stephen R. Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Hmm. Yeah, and our mission here isn't just to, list the habits. We want to dig into what makes this framework stick, why it's been so enduring, so transformative for so many people. We're pulling directly from excerpts from The 7 Habits, a guide to principle-centered living, and it hits you right away with Covey's big idea. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. The whole thing, you find out pretty quick, is built on these timeless character ethics, things like integrity, courage, fairness, service. It's not about shortcuts.
Exactly, and I think that's key. Covey's approach, it moves beyond just like doing more stuff faster. It's really about who you're becoming. It's about becoming a principle-centered person.
Yeah.
It's a much deeper shift, not just productivity tips.
Absolutely. So to help you navigate this, we're going to follow Covey's structure. First up is the private victory. That's habits 1, 2, and 3, all about self-mastery. Then we'll get into the public victory, habits 4, 5, and 6, which is all about working well with others, relationships. And finally, habit 7. That's the renewal piece, keeping it all going. You'll definitely get insights you can, well, start using right away. Okay, so how do we even start this journey, this transformation towards being principle-centered? Covey says it starts inside. It starts with achieving the private victory. Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the private victory. And habit 1, be proactive. Covey's famous line here is, I'm not a product of my circumstances. I'm a product of my decisions. Powerful stuff.
It really is. It's often called the foundation, and for good reason. Because being proactive, it isn't just about, being busy or taking initiative. It's more fundamental. It's about recognizing you have a choice in how you respond to anything that happens. Reactive people, they tend to blame their circumstances, the weather, other people. Their mood goes up and down with external stuff. Proactive people, though, they understand there's a space between stimulus and response. And in that space is their freedom to choose. It's about focusing your energy on your circle of influence, the things you actually can do something about, instead of getting stressed about the circle of concern, all that stuff you can't control anyway.
Right, so it's about where you put your focus. And your language actually plays a big role here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A really practical tip Covey gives is just swapping out I can't for I choose not to or I choose to. It sounds small, but it reinforces that sense of agency, that your language shapes your reality.
It absolutely does. That internal dialogue matters.
Okay, so building on that foundation of choice, of agency, we get to habit 2. And this is where it gets really interesting. Begin with the end in mind. The quote is, start with a clear understanding of your destination. This one can feel a bit big.
It can, yeah, because Covey literally asks you to think about your own funeral. What do you want people to say about you?
Right.
About the life you lived, the person you were. It sounds maybe a bit morbid at first, but it's incredibly clarifying. It forces you to define what truly matters to you, your core values, the kind of impact you want to have. Writing a personal mission statement is a key exercise here. It becomes your personal constitution, guiding your decisions day to day so you're actually living towards that legacy intentionally, not just drifting.
So it connects the big picture, your ultimate purpose, to your everyday actions. And that funeral visualization is a powerful way to tap into that. What do you want that legacy to be? Then you start living in alignment with that. It's like having an internal compass.
Precisely. A very clear internal compass.
All right, so you're proactive, you know your destination. How do you make sure you're actually on the right path day to day? Habit 3, put first things first. And Covey's reframe here is so good. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities.
Yes. This is where your mission statement and values meet the road. It blends time management with living intentionally. He talks about the time matrix, right? 4 quadrants. The trap is living in quadrant 1. Urgent and important. Constant firefighting, crises, or getting lost in Q3 and Q4, the urgent but not important, or the just plain time wasters.
Right, the distractions.
Exactly. The goal is to spend most of your time in quadrant 2. Important, but not urgent. This is where the real leverage is. Things like long-range planning, building relationships, exercise, learning, preparation, activities that build capacity but don't usually scream for attention.
And that Q2 stuff, it's often the first thing to go when things get busy, isn't it? It takes real discipline.
It absolutely does. That's why he says schedule your priorities. You literally block out time for Q2 activities. Make appointments with yourself for the important stuff.
So it's about proactively carving out time for what truly matters based on habit 2.
Yeah.
Using the self-awareness from habit 1.
You got it. Mastering these first 3 habits, be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first. That's the private victory. It builds that foundation of character and self-mastery, you achieve independence.
Independence, okay. But life isn't lived alone, right?
Mm.
So what does this all mean? Once you master independence, Covey says the next step is interdependence, working well with others. Which brings us to the public victory.
Right.
And kicking off the public victory is habit 4. Think win-win. The core idea here is win-win is a frame of mind that seeks mutual benefit.
Yeah, this is a huge paradigm shift for a lot of interactions. We're often conditioned to think in terms of win-lose. If I win, you have to lose, or vice versa, or even lose-win, where you're constantly sacrificing. Win-win says there's a better way. It stems from what Covey calls an abundance mentality, a belief that there's plenty for everybody, enough success, enough credit, enough solutions to go around. It requires integrity sticking to your values, maturity balancing courage and consideration. And that abundance mentality, it's about seeking solutions that benefit everyone involved, not just compromising, but finding a third, better alternative.
That makes sense. So a practical tip. In any interaction, any negotiation, even just a discussion where opinions differ, consciously ask yourself, how can we both win here? Or what would a win look like for them?
Just asking the question can change everything.
Okay, moving through the public victory habits. Habit 5 is potentially life-changing for relationships. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. And that quote really hits home. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply.
Ouch. It's so true, though, isn't it? We're often just waiting for our turn to talk, formulating our response while the other person is still speaking. Covey advocates for empathic listening, which is different from just, active listening techniques. It's about genuinely trying to see the world from the other person's point of view, to understand their perspective, their feelings, their frame of reference before you try to get your point across. This builds what Covey calls an emotional bank account. It fosters trust, respect. It makes true communication possible because the other person feels heard and valued.
So it's not just hearing the words, but getting the meaning behind the words. A way to practice this is reflective listening. Try saying things like, so if I'm understanding you correctly, or what I hear you saying is, and really pause your own judgments, your own urge to jump in. It's harder than it sounds.
It takes conscious effort, definitely. But the payoff in terms of connection and problem solving is immense.
And that leads nicely into the final habit of the public victory, habit 6, synergize. The quote here is, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Synergy. This is where all the other habits come together, especially the public victory ones. It's about creative cooperation. It's not just teamwork, not just compromise where maybe everyone loses a little. Synergy is when 1 + 1 = 3, or 10, or 100. It's about valuing the differences in people, their perspectives, experiences, strength. When you combine win-win thinking, habit 4, with empathic listening, habit 5, you create the conditions for synergy. People feel safe, respected, understood, and they open up to finding new, creative solutions that nobody could have thought of alone.
So it's about truly leveraging diversity of thought, not just tolerating it. An action tip here could be, next time you're in a group trying to solve a problem, resist the urge to push your solution right away. Instead, really try to understand all the viewpoints and actively brainstorm, encourage different ideas, even the ones that seem way out there. That's where the breakthroughs can happen.
Exactly. Embrace the differences as opportunities for creativity.
Okay, so we've covered the private victory independence, the public victory interdependence. What keeps it all going? How do you sustain this effectiveness over the long haul? And finally, the habit that keeps it all sustainable. Habit 7, sharpen the saw.
Ah, yes. The analogy is so clear, isn't it, from the quote? We must never be too busy sawing to take time to sharpen the saw. This habit is all about renewal. It's about preserving and enhancing your greatest asset, which is you. It's the habit that prevents burnout, keeps you growing, and makes all the other habits possible long term. Without it, the saw gets dull and your effectiveness plummets.
And Covey breaks this down into 4 key areas, 4 dimensions of our nature that need regular renewal. There's the physical dimension, exercise, nutrition, rest, stress management. Pretty straightforward, but crucial. Then the mental dimension, reading, learning, visualizing, planning, writing, keeping your mind sharp and engaged. Then the emotional social dimension. This is about our relationships, empathy, service, building that emotional bank account with others. And finally, the spiritual dimension, connecting with your core values, meditation or prayer, spending time in nature, art, music, whatever, inspires you and connects you to your purpose.
That's right, and they're all interconnected. Neglecting one area tends to impact the others. It's about finding balance and consistently investing time in renewing yourself across all 4 dimensions. A really practical way to do this is to actually schedule renewal time. Maybe it's a weekly renewal day, or even just dedicated blocks of time each day or week for activities in each of those 4 areas. Make it non-negotiable. It's not selfish. It's essential for sustainable contribution.
Right. It's an investment, not a cost. So when you look at it all together, the 7 habits, it really isn't just a checklist, is it? It's more like an upward spiral, a framework for continuous growth and improvement. It's designed to be a lifestyle.
That's perfectly put. It's a journey. Habits 1, 2, 3 build that private victory, your independence. Habits 4, 5, 6 build on that for the public victory, interdependence. And habit 7, sharpen the saw, makes the whole process sustainable and allows you to keep growing. It's definitely not about quick fixes. It's about deep, principle-centered change that impacts everything: how you see yourself, how you interact with others, how you approach your work and life.
Yeah, so if you're listening and you want to lead with more purpose, if you want to grow personally and professionally, build stronger relationships, this framework is just, well, essential.
Absolutely. And maybe a bonus takeaway if you're thinking, okay, where do I even start? If you had to pick just one habit to focus on right now, I'd argue it should be habit 1. Be proactive. Truly internalizing that you are the programmer, not the program, that you choose your responses. That single shift can fundamentally change your whole life trajectory. It unlocks the door to all the other habits.
That's a great point, the power of choice. So a final thought for you to consider. Which saw in your own life might be the dullest right now? Your physical energy, your mental engagement, your key relationships, your connection to your values. And just think about how sharpening that one area, really investing in renewing that one dimension, could ripple outwards and impact all the others, improving both your personal effectiveness and your public interactions. Something to chew on.